Hello, my name is Lily Baker. I'm an undergraduate intern at Vanderbilt University Center for Teaching, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jaszmine Simmons, a Vanderbilt University alumna from the class of 2021 and a former learning assistant for the Introduction to Biological Sciences and Biochemistry courses. Welcome, Jaszmine.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So what did you learn from being a learning assistant?
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself and how to relate with students and really kind of bridge that gap between the professor and the student. So it was more of a supportive role for me in realizing like, how can I use my desire to help others learn something, and how can I use my personality to kind of connect with others. And obviously it's an amazing opportunity to review content that you might have put in the back of your head for a little while once you got past the course. But it's still, maybe applicable for a future profession or a future career goal.
How did being a learning assistant influence your thinking about science or your identity as a scientist or an educator?
Well, for the first time, I see myself as an educator. I had never had that experience before. I think that I'm really more inquisitive now. So from interacting with students and kind of seeing how they take information and synthesize it for themselves and then figure out what questions to ask, I've started doing that as well. And that's all because of being a learning assistant. I would have never had that experience otherwise. And like I said, like I trust myself more as an educator and as a scientist because I see that it really is a collaborative process on both ends. And as much as you're giving to the students, they're giving right back to you. And that's kind of building up your own confidence as an educator.
If you were describing being a learning assistant to a friend, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I've actually had to do this a lot because people don't know what that means. They get it very confused with being a TA. It's really more of a peer educator role. So you're not a professor, you don't have to grade, you don't have to do any of those kind of housekeeping types things, but you still get the joy of, going through the content with students. So it's kind of like a middle ground between the professor and the student that I really enjoyed a lot. Sometimes I remember it can be difficult as an undergrad to kind of interact with a PhD professor, and they're always so fast and so smart that it can really be nice to have someone who's on your corner or in your corner and able to help you out with that.
What was the most rewarding part of being a learning assistant?
Yeah, it's really seeing my students kind of benefit from the discussions and activities that I put the time into and with the professors and working with them as well. And then just watching them grow from, the first day of class to the end of the semester. So whether they were a quiet student who didn't want to ask questions in the beginning to becoming one of the most vocal people in the group by the end, just seeing that progression was really empowering. And then being able to, I'm still in contact with some of my students and, they'll reach out and say, hey, like this class went really well. And I think it's because I had a strong foundation from something we talked about together. Or having students reach out to me and say like, hey, like what was your experience like as a learning assistant? I'm thinking about being one. That's definitely very rewarding.
Would you recommend being a learning assistant to other students?
Absolutely. I think it's a really incredible opportunity. And it obviously has an impact on, future classes as well. But I would caution students who are considering being a learning assistant to be very realistic about their willingness to commit to such a heavy time commitment. And then just knowing that you don't have to be an expert. You're not expected to know all of the answers at all times, but being willing to kind of be vulnerable with students in those moments when you don't know stuff, and being willing to work with them is really important if you're considering being a learning assistant.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. This has been great, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you.